I got Howard Post here today. Second podcast for Howard. First one was really early on, and the audio wasn't the best. I blame it on the audio, not on you, Howard. But
Thank you.
Howard told me just a minute ago before we started, he goes, his wife told him he needs to pick up the pace because there's too many dead spaces in between. And you told me,
Yeah.
I got to think.
Yeah. It's the thinking that takes the time, not the talking.
So there you have it, Marilyn. He's thinking.
She even had me wear a clean shirt this time, So
yeah, I noticed that. I think the first one we went around, I'm not sure you knew it was video and you just came in. I don't know if you came in right off of a horse or not, but
yeah.
So did you still have your horses, by the way?
I have one horse left. He's old and crippled.
Yeah.
Not usable, but he looks good up on the hill. So
yeah, you enjoy having him.
So I keep feeding him.
So it's an interesting component about your life, which I just find fascinating, is, that you were really a rodeo guy. I mean, from the get-go. In fact, I'd like to just, even though today one of the things we're really here to talk to Howard about and why we're having him back is he's got a major show for us that opens on the 22nd, this will actually be going out before it opens which is October 22nd. And we'll talk about that show, but I also like to talk about just your earlier days because, you're a native Arizonian with deep roots to the West and to rodeo. That's a true statement, I'd say, isn't it?
Yeah, that was our sport, our family sport, even though we were competed in the professional level, but back then there weren't that many guys that did it for a living. My dad had a business. He sold hay and feed to the ranchers and everybody all around southern Arizona. So
that was on Dodge Street, right?
Dodge and Fort Low, yeah.
Yep, and that was Bum Posts.
OK Feed and Supply.
Yeah, which is still there, right?
Yeah, they call it OK Feed now.
Yeah.
His real name was Orville Kelvin.
Yeah.
So you can see he didn't want to use those names much. He used I don't know where he got the nickname Bum, but that's what everybody knew him by.
Yeah.
And he was pretty famous around the country for selling feed and stuff. But we rodeoed as a sport, and
did he rodeo?
He did, yeah. Because he had his business, though, he didn't go too far. We stayed in Arizona mostly, some New Mexico. If we could get to a place in 2 or 3 or 4 hours, we'd go there. But
what was his? Did he have a specialty? Or just overall
roping, team roping.
Team roping. So.
Yeah, that was the big, most popular thing going then, and it is today. Still, it's even more popular now. It's a big time.
Why is that? Do you think just less dangerous in some extent?
You can do it into your late years,
Right.
Team roping, you don't get off your horse; you stay on the horse, and so my dad, I think his last competition was when he was 80.
Oh my gosh!
So I don't want to go that long. Well, I'm retired now officially.
Yeah, no, I remember you came in and you told me that.
Yeah.
But that was just very recently that you retired.
Yeah,
right?
Basically it was based on my horse. I had my other good horse died, and then this one got crippled, and just figured it was kind of a sign that it was time to finish it up. So,
well, it takes a long time to do that, right?
Yeah, finding horses, and the cost of horses these days is
right.
It'd be $30,000 just to start to look for a new horse.
Though I know you competed in Las Vegas in the rodeo finals just a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, this is not the pro finals.
Right.
This is,
I understand that.
This is called the World Series of Team Roping. When you qualify,
still a big deal.
Yeah. Well, in the division I was in, it paid $300,000 to win.
Yeah.
So it is a big deal. Yeah. I won sixth one time and won $40,000, I think it was.
Yeah, you also won a truck once. I remember that too.
Won a truck, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm still not breaking even, as my wife reminds me.
Constantly. Yeah, you're making more money now you're out of rodeo than you ever were.
So we always had a deal over the years. However much I spent on horses, she could spend that much on whatever she wanted.
Yeah.
So, which is, I thought was pretty fair, you know. So
Yeah, I think that's a very good deal for both of you.
but she couldn't win any money shopping though, so that was
Never know. Come shopping, Medicine
that's
Man
true.
Gallery. You never know,
That's true.
right? So, but when you're a kid growing up, you were also very much into rodeo, right? But also drawing too, right? You were known as the class artist, I think, pretty much.
Well, it started in third grade. My teacher entered
That's
one
right.
of my drawings down at the Tucson Daily Citizen. I won first prize and got my picture in the paper. So I decided that was my calling in life. And
Did you decide that at third grade?
Yeah.
You said, "Yeah, that's what I want to do."
yeah,
But yet you have this family that does rodeo and is in the feed business as well, and you're good at it. So I'm sure there was pressure on you as you got older to maybe stay on the rodeo end of things.
nobody thought the art thing was that serious. You know, I mean, you want to be an artist? Okay, great. You know, but nobody. I never figured on being making a career out of rodeo either. Although some of my guys I competed with went on to do that full time. It's a good thing I didn't, because it's a tough life, you know. When you retire, what's left, you know.
Right, broken bones.
Yeah, so I never had any thought about making that a career, you know. But,
but you won like the all around rodeo championship, didn't you, in high school?
High school, yeah, I did that.
So that's everything. You're doing all the
yeah, all the events. Yeah.
every one.
I rode. Well, I didn't ride bucking horses. I rode bulls. Did steer wrestling, roping, and yeah. And out of high school, U of A, I was on the U of A's intercollegiate rodeo team, which most of the schools in the West had those back then, and they would send us to compete all around the West. Did that for a couple of years, and by then I'd earned my professional level qualifications, so I competed in pro rodeo for 3 years, I think it was.
Oh, you did. And what were you competing in?
Roping.
Yeah.
But I rode bulls early on and was pretty good, but when they got to the pro level, they used the A.
Right, the head stompers.
The head stompers, and got hurt early on, and figured I was done with that. So
yeah, what's that like to be on such a massive animal that you know is just trying to hurt you?
It's an adrenaline rush for sure. You know, it was fun. You know, it was fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, it's you're in danger.
Yeah.
Every minute, but we do a lot of sports, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, growing up in eastern New Mexico, we had a rodeo high school team and all that, and I remember those guys doing it, and I liked rodeo, but I was like, there's no way I can get on that. You know, that animal wants to hurt me.
Yeah. So,
and can.
Well, most of the guys that do it professionally, I mean, they're constantly dealing with injury. And they usually kill a couple of guys every year, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But yet, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're also, 18, whatever, 20.
Yeah. Invincible at that time.
Yeah, makes it easier to feel that way. Don't have kids and things that are our wife going, don't do that. Please don't do that. So you do the rodeo, you do pro rodeo, which is, one of the things I'm doing, we're talking about Howard's show that he's got coming up that's from above, but I'm also doing a rodeo show that's opening in February. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that show, honestly, was just my inspiration coming from you, having done that and probably seeing all your rodeo pieces and paintings and cowboy paintings for so many years. And it's going to be just super fun to have, the real deal as an artist and as a rodeo guy.
I'll have to say I don't know that I ever did that many action rodeo pieces. That wasn't my focus.
Yeah, which is great. I think that's the interesting part of your paintings and part of the when you go to I think when you go to a rodeo, it's not just about watching, the action in the ring. It's also just the whole culture of the West, right?
Yeah, behind the scenes. some guy wrote about me as being the cowboy Degas. Degas didn't always do the dancing out front. He did the dancers behind the curtains,
right,
and all that approach to it. So
yes,
that was the part I enjoyed about it. And we had Louise Serpa to document the real action. I've got books full of Louise Serpa photos of me competing, back in the day. So,
and was that in high school or college or
all the way up? She started doing the kids rodeos, and then high school, and then got accepted in the pro level.
Yes.
So she was well known.
Yeah. Yeah, she was amazing. So those who don't know Louise Serpa she was a great photographer that lived here in Tucson, and she was known for her rodeo pieces. We actually represent the state as well, and I think most of her pieces ended up in Oklahoma City at what I always refer to as the Cowboy Hall of Fame, but is
Cowboy and Western Heritage.
So that's why,
Museum.
Yeah, the Cowboy Western Heritage Museum. So one of these days I'll get that down.
Yeah, me too.
It's hard when it's been so much that you think of it the other way.
They have two parts. There's the Rodeo Hall of Fame is in Colorado Springs, and that's a separate thing. That's the official one for pro rodeo, but
right.
in Oklahoma is kind of the unofficial.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so when you're doing this as a kid, so you win the all around competition, and you go to U of A in art, though, right? And what was your dad saying to you at that time?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you want to be an artist, that's great. So, but what are you going to do to make money?
Right.
Make a living. So, and he was supportive, really. I mean, he didn't try to discourage me, but he had no comprehension of how anybody could make a living as an artist.
Yeah. Well, there was no artist in your family at all, or was there?
No.
No, it just was there for you.
Yeah. And I had always wanted to be a painter, I said, but they said you can't make a living as a painter. You need to be an illustrator,
right.
A graphic designer. So that's what I focused on at the U of A, and which was good. That's good training, and it provided a way to make a living. I did that illustration design for probably 5 years.
Mm-hmm. You graduate? Did you graduate with a BFA?
Yeah.
In illustration?
They didn't.
They didn't even break it down that way.
Just fine art, BFA in fine art. Yeah.
And so when you're painting and you're getting your degree, have you touched into what you're known for now, as far as the cowboy Western scenery? I know when you get your master's that really changes. But
yeah, that's when I found my voice.
That was it. Okay.
So before that, I knew I wanted to deal with the West that I'd grown up with.
Right.
And what I knew from that was the Cowboy Artists of America and those guys.
Right.
And yet that wasn't really me. They were pretty traditional and in the scenes of bucking horses and cowboys and stuff. That wasn't me, really, and so one of my professor friends said, forget about that, just start doing stuff from your dad's ranch, and when I first started doing that, that's when I discovered my approach. The cattle crowded together, the corrals, all that was what really appealed to me. The abstract qualities, because I'd been exposed to all the isms, of fine art, abstract expressionism, all the, Paul Klee and Diebenkorn those were some of my favorite artists, and I hadn't ever been exposed to Maynard Dixon at that point. So, but all those abstract guys were ones that I really enjoyed, and so I had a different approach to. When my eye was out looking for imagery, the abstract qualities were what attracted me in part. But the fact that they were still cowboys and animals and
right,
all that, that was a plus.
And so when you're starting this journey, this really is when you you graduate from college, you go and work as an illustrator, right? Was it for Hallmark?
No, I worked for the Church of Jesus Christ
Oh, that's
of Latter-day
right.
Saints in
That's right.
Salt Lake. Hallmark offered me a job.
That was right. They offered you a job.
But then U of A called and offered me a faculty position.
Right.
And so I came back down and taught for a couple of years and worked on my painting, and decided to get a master's, because if you have a master's, you can get a better pay scale when you're teaching, So,
right. And it was free, probably, as an instructor,
free,
right?
Yeah.
At that point, did you ever think, maybe I'll just be a teacher?
Well, it's a good life, I know. You teach 3 days a week, and then the rest of the time you work on your own stuff, And I saw that in all the other professors there, and that looked good. But fortunately, the position ended, so I had to get back to reality. And but in that period there was when I discovered my direction, my focus, and I had a master's thesis show, and Mrs. John W. Murphy, whose husband developed the entire foothills area.
Right.
She came to the show and bought most of the show.
Wow. Good eye.
But Elaine Horwich also came to the show and saw it, and she called and invited me to be in her gallery in Scottsdale. So
now, how did Elaine Horowitz find out about you? And this was for your master's?
Yeah.
That's pretty, that's impressive, actually.
I don't know, actually.
And she came actually to the show?
Saw the show, yeah.
Wow. So somehow it had gotten out that you were doing, because she's not going to just come down for no reason at all, I don't think.
She really liked the work and invited me to be in, and so I agreed. But I won't mention the name, her director at the time wasn't a big fan of my work, so even though I was in her gallery, I never got on the walls,
Yeah.
So I left there and ended up at Suzanne Brown, her old friend and arch enemy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's another long story. But
yeah, but they were business partners. They ran a gallery together for a while, and then they both kind of broke off.
Yeah.
And Suzanne did her thing, and Elaine did her thing. And so, what year would have that been that you were doing that? Was like late 70s, early 80s?
I started showing in galleries in the late 70s. I use 1980 as the kind of the mark year when I quit being an illustrator and was a, quote, fine artist.
Yes.
Things were selling enough to make that break.
Yes.
About 1980. So.
And when did you finish your master's up?
That was 78, maybe.
Yeah, so right there. And that's when you really first started thinking in the terms of looking above at things?
I'd already, in my initial exploration, had a little bit of that above angle, but I'd never gotten directly overhead. So it was maybe early 80s when I discovered that direct overhead view, I was up on some catwalks, corrals over the chutes, looked down these figures it was just amazing to me that, they were abstract shapes and colors and patterns, but they were also cowboys and horses, and that won me over right then, I've tried to get over that. It's kind of a fixation, I've even had therapy, but I keep falling off the wagon and coming back to it.
From the above, you mean?
Yeah, the above approach. I just love that,
Yeah, well, I think it's very successful. We decided on the show because you had done a piece that was at the Briscoe, which was just fantastic. And I've always loved your above stuff. And it was like, can we do one that's just from that angle that it's been very successful. It's not the only thing you do. In fact, I would say it's not normally, I don't know what, it's a small percent of your paintings probably are done that way. Are they? I don't know. It seems like I can't say, even though I've represented you for 25 years.
I don't say, I'm going to go do some directly overhead things.
Right.
I just, respond to the imagery that I see. And
Yes.
sometimes it's direct overhead, sometimes it's at a slightly elevated angle, and sometimes ground level, So
Yes.
whatever happens to appeal to me at that time. But those overhead things, they still
Yeah.
get my attention, because
Can you put yourself in that shoot still when you're looking? I mean, and I know you don't do any action stuff. I know it's all kind of cowboys more sitting on the rails or steers waiting to be, involved in something. But can you feel that kind of, I'm still there?
oh yeah, you can still get a vibe, there.
I would think.
It's I guess that's one of the things about it is, because it's stuff that I'm personally involved with.
Right.
And then you say, hey, look, this is all personal stuff, and yet it's really an abstract shape, abstract shadows, colors. That's what that's the fun part of it for me.
Yeah. And your color sense is, I've always said to people, good luck if you want to try to copy Howard Post, because you're not going to be able to reproduce that color palette that you have.
Your son Charles and I were talking about that, the
Yeah.
color. He was saying that he noticed the early work was a little more true to life, and that is the case. But somewhere along in there, I decided that was kind of boring, and so I just started inventing my own color,
Mm-hmm.
which I still do to this day, So it's yeah. People have asked about my color theory, well, I don't have a color theory. I
Right.
just go with whatever feels right for me at the time.
Well, and, I love to see like your purple horses. Though I guess a horse, when it gets heated up and sweaty, it can have that purple sheen to it, can it?
Yeah, there's there's horses that they really do look purple,
Right.
So, yeah, horses, the coloration of them, and I find the cattle have more interesting color patterns. The hides of, at least the cattle that they use in rodeo, which are called corrientes, which is Mexican cattle.
Mm-hmm.
That cattle has more interesting hide patterns and things. This is weird to talk about,
No.
hide patterns of animals.
Well, I mean, it's no different than Degas or whatever, I mean, that's your subject matter, right? And very few people, I think, if any, have approached it in the way that you look at it, from as a participant in rodeo, as somebody who grew up around it from the day you were born, to then taking your modern sensibility and applying it to how you see your world. I find one of the most interesting things is that you don't do any action figures, bucking broncos or whatever. And why is that exactly?
I'll have to say I've done a couple, commissions,
Yeah.
but I find it a little trite,
Yes.
And the fact that we have photography, which portrays it far better, I don't know. It just didn't ever appeal to me to try to portray that,
Well, I think you just said it. Like, you can't capture the sense,
Yeah.
the essence of it, right? I mean, you know what it's like to be on a mad bull or,
Yeah.
so you know what that feels like, the reality of it. And so you go to the cowboys, right? Talking, sitting. Tell me a little bit about some of those imagery that you do when you do the cowboys.
Yeah. So I of course, had rodeoed and knew a lot of the guys even after I had quit rodeoing,
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be around them in that setting didn't seem unusual or forced or anything, because they knew me and I knew them.
Right.
And so that was pretty comfortable, and but yeah, they're just trying to do their thing, they're not worried about much of anything in terms of somebody taking their photograph or
Right.
an artist trying to do a painting of them, So it was pretty easy, pretty natural to be around them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I conversed much with them. When I'm doing research, I'm pretty quiet, pretty in my head, about
Right.
the imagery. You as a photographer probably appreciate that too, right?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather be a fly on the wall, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, because if you're not, then things get forced, and you can tell forced imagery just immediately. Whether it's a painting or a photography or whatever. When it's natural, it's like anything, like singing. When somebody connects to you with singing, it's because you can feel the emotion of that moment, right? But if they don't have the emotion in it, then you don't have the same response to a song. Well, same for a photograph or painting. If it seems that it's forced, you just don't have the same response. And as humans, I think we have this just immediate response to. We can tell. We can tell a fake smile. We don't know how, but we know. And the same thing I think with painting. So when I look at your paintings of cowboys and horses and things, it seems right. So without me going, did he set that up? I never even think about it. It just seems like a moment in time.
People have always asked me over the years about when my figures are usually turned away with their heads down or
Right.
something like, don't you do faces? And I said,
Right.
well, if they're looking at me, that means they're aware of me and, they're thinking about me. I want to be anonymous to them, or I want them to be anonymous. And,
Right.
And so a good way to do that is when they're looking away or looking down, doing their thing, So,
Yeah, makes sense. And horses. We have a lot of horses in this show. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about this show. So we came up with the idea of doing really something from, I called it above, but, looking at the subjects in a different fashion, not just straight on. What are some of the things that you like in the show that you've produced that really kind of, I think it's a great show, by the way. Some amazing things. We just got it in yesterday. But what are some of the things that you really stick out in your mind on the show?
So some of these pieces are pieces I've had in my own collection for a while. I have an art closet.
Very good. Okay.
And so I keep them around, for a while. And like there's one of some wild horses on the coast.
Yeah, the ocean one.
In North Carolina,
Right.
My daughter and her husband, he went to medical school back there in North Carolina. And so we went back, spent time at the Outer Banks, and everybody said, hey, they got all these wild horses wandering around, which is true. I mean, they just
Right.
wander the beach and wander through people's homes and properties. And so I had to check that out, and so I did 2 or 3 paintings of that, and we have my favorite one here in the show, which is pretty unusual, I'd say, for Howard Post. But
yeah, but they do occur.
Yeah.
Bill Anton did a cool one.
Oh yeah, he did the ocean thing.
Yeah, I bought that one actually. It was a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
I mean, horses are all around America on the west and the east coast.
They, of course, the overhead view of the animals, but the coloration of them. There's one in the show here, 2 paint mares.
Mm-hmm.
Just the abstract quality created by their coloration has always appealed to me and continues to do so. There's one of the stockyard workers,
Mm-hmm.
sale yard workers, I guess it's called, 2 guys on the fence. Those abstract corral patterns have always been a subject I keep coming back to. I can't resist, the abstract qualities of the fences. And
Yeah.
so,
When you first started looking at those, or maybe you can tell me when you first kind of realized, wow, this is abstract art when you're looking at those. Do you remember that kind of time frame or moment?
yeah, well, one of the first ones is in '77, Mountain Oyster Club. They bought it.
Yeah, I see it. I just saw it the other day. It's over the front desk as you come in.
It's a big one, 40 by 60.
Right.
That whole series I was doing then, and to me, that's one of my coolest paintings. And it's lasted held up all these years.
I agree.
But the abstract quality of that one, it didn't escape me. I mean, I wasn't saying, "Oh, look, let's do an abstract painting." No.
Right.
I was just doing what was there. But the fact that it had all these abstract qualities I was aware of that, of course. So,
I particularly like the one with the corrals that you have in this one because
yeah.
it's just so much corrals. It's like 2/3 corrals, and then the guys are up kind of in the front. It's almost like they're insignificant in a way compared to the size and the immensity of just those abstract lines.
Yeah, those sale yards used to be everywhere in the West, but not so much anymore. There's a lot less of them around, so.
Why is that?
I'm not sure.
Just maybe the way they do business is different.
I guess.
More on a big corporate level.
Yeah. There might be some big ones like in Fort Worth, in Oklahoma City. There's some big stockyards. That might be the center where everybody goes. They don't have one here in Tucson anymore. They used to be a couple of big ones, and Phoenix had some, but they're gone. So.
And that's where they'd bring all the cattle in and they would sell them off at that time.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
There's one out in Marana still, but they're not nearly as big. I guess the cattle business is not doing as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's always comes and goes.
Yeah.
Every cattle guy ever,
Yeah.
They're either killing it or dying.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be anything in between.
Yeah, that's another story to follow there. But my dad again sold hay to all the ranchers around southern Arizona.
Right.
Of course, needed hay because sometimes there was no rain and so there was no grass, so they would have to feed the cattle, which was bad for them because they would lose money.
Right.
Good for him because he sold hay, but
as long as he could get the hay.
Yeah. Those are some good memory. I guess the question was about the pieces in the show here.
Yes.
I'm trying to think.
How about the biggest one?
The big one, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Those steers crowded together that's always been a favorite of mine. And some of my landmark pieces were the steers crowded together.
Right. And I think what people don't realize, there's not a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
That even though that may be kind of almost quintessential Howard Post when I see it, they're not common. In fact, they're uncommon. And everyone I've ever had, and I haven't had many, seem to sell very quickly. In fact, I have one in my own collection that many people wanted to buy. I was like, I don't want to sell it. I can't get them.
So most of the places you can find the cattle crowded together now at rodeos rather than sale yards, So when they gather the steers for competition,
right,
they're crowded together, So I try to frequent those places as much as I can. They, of course, all the corrals now are made out of pipe metal as opposed to wood in years gone by. So, that's fine. It just keeps coming back to me, I mean, I try not to be totally focused on that, but it still appeals to me, and I tried to avoid it honestly for years, not, because I hate to copy myself as an artist, but if something appeals to you so much, you keep circling back to it,
right,
and hopefully you can approach it in a fresh way, bring something new to it.
Right. Well, a lot of your work, I think, actually even quintessential work, is landscapes. These, I'll use the word idyllic, but in a way, that's really what it is. It's kind of idyllic ranches with cottonwoods turning or,
No, I love there's also abstract qualities about the landscapes, of course, and the linear qualities of the fields and that sort of thing is something that always attracted me. So those keep showing up. Let's see.
Well, the Phoenix Art Museum and the Denver Art Museum both have big major paintings of yours, and those are kind of more landscape, ranch kind of imagery, not cattle or horses.
Right. I've gone through a period of doing a lot of I call it ranchscapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good term for it.
As I traveled around ranches all over the country, even in Hawaii, I've done painting. There's a lot of ranches in Hawaii.
Yeah, there is, especially on the Big Island.
Yeah, so that's kind of a universal thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all have a set of home corrals and the ranch building and the ranch house. You know, so it's
and trees
around it. You know,
right.
So it's kind of a universal statement, I guess. And so I've done a lot of those over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Townscapes is another one. I call them all these little towns where there used to be rodeos.
Right.
Going back to them, you know, a lot of the towns have kind of disappeared now. But
yeah, a lot of them.
But I did a whole series of quote townscapes. You know, the little rodeo towns. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think every town in the West probably had, or maybe still does have, a rodeo. I would think. I mean, it seems like it's getting more popular to me.
Yeah, I don't know about some of the towns have died away to where they can't afford it anymore. But
yeah, well, they don't have a town anymore.
And even Phoenix used to have one of the biggest in the country. Doesn't have a rodeo anymore.
Yeah, well, it's okay because they're Phoenix.
Yeah.
We have the 98th rodeo, 98th year of the rodeos this year.
Tucson has always been a famous, a big one, you know. So
yeah. How many times would you say you competed in that one?
I think my first year, my dad and I roped together when I was 17. I think.
Yeah. So,
and then I did probably 3 years there. Then I kind of interrupted with some other things and came back to it half a dozen times probably.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, and this show we're trying to do next year for you, you know, I'm in the program for the rodeo. You know, one of the inner pages is of me competing. So what we're doing, what he's talking about, is a show that I'm called Rodeo de Tucson, which is going to be open February 3rd, and at least we'll have ephemera as well as all sorts of things that are related to rodeo, but not only just like tight work, but very contemporary too. I'm going to have some really contemporary pieces, including I've got these wonderful saddles that are made out of plexiglass. Oh yeah, I saw that.
That cool. So those are going to be very interesting. But
got Ed Mell's sculptures, you know.
Yeah, and Ed's going to do a piece for us, and we've got a variety of individuals, not just people that are in my gallery, but some others that I've invited for this show. Yeah, just to show what it can be, right? You know, from your end of it, I mean, I look at you as like the modern West, and I always have. Do you think that's a fair statement to say? Very contemporary sensibilities in your paintings?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, certainly not traditional in my approach.
Traditional subject maybe, but not approach at all.
I've always wanted to deal with the West, but I didn't want it to be a stereotyped approach to it. You know, I want it to be my own personal view of the West and the way I like it, you know.
When you first came out and were showing with like Suzanne Brown, and did you get pushed back because your paintings were, you know, more modern?
Well, no, with the galleries like Suzanne, that's what
drew them into.
That was the appeal, you know. It was the shows like the Prix de West and the big museum shows were still very traditional approach, and so even though I had applied to some of those, they weren't interested, you know, because a little too out there, you know. I mean, to me now, I'm pretty conservative relatively to the whole genre of art.
Right, how far it's gone to the more modern sense.
So even one of the board members of the Prix de West took me aside after they brought me in. He said, "Howard, I just want you to know you're our token contemporary guy. You know, we want to see how it goes. And fortunately, it what was well received.
Yeah.
So
And now Ed Mell is
yeah,
showing it
yeah,
with abstract
yeah.
pieces.
I thought that was the coolest thing when Ed got in there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think it's smart that they recognize that things change, and it doesn't mean that traditional is out. In fact, it's probably 95% still very traditional, but that they're accepting of, okay, this is also in our wheelhouse. This is still the West or Southwest, however you want to do it. And so that's interesting that it was the museums that gave you the negative, feedback.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know what to do with it,
Right.
I mean,
I get it. And they probably would have got some feedback, like, why do you have this guy doing these pink shirt cowboys with purple horses?
I know Billy
Shank.
He's still. Oh yeah, excuse me. Billy Shank is. They've still been pushing back against him, but I think they're starting to accept him now.
Yeah.
More.
Well, he's at 60 museum collections too.
Yeah.
As you are in some major museum basically all the major museums of the West.
So
I've often thought that you have one of the most unique styles of any of my artists. I've always said this, and I do believe you're going to be remembered for ever, basically. I do, for how you saw the West and what you do. When you look at if you go, I've gone in. I remember I was in, I think, Indianapolis, and I saw like way across the room in a hotel. It was like, that's a Howard Post back over there, and because you cannot not know your style, it's so unique, color-wise and imagery, and there's nobody doing that. That's one of the things I love about representing you. That, and you're just a very nice human being as well.
Well, thanks. So, I mean, people either like it or they don't, of course, and it's.
I've never heard anybody that didn't like your work, honestly, quite frankly.
No. Well, I mean.
Maybe they don't say it to me because I love it, but.
I may not be one of the most prolific sellers of work, how about that, because people's taste that like my contemporary approach to things,
right,
that market may be a little bit smaller. I don't know.
I'm growing daily.
Yeah. My wife and I have tried to analyze this,
I'm sure.
I mean, there's certain imagery that's wildly popular with a whole cross section of people, but
right,
some pieces are a little more eclectic in terms of who wants to have those, So I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't destined to be rich. How about that?
Well, you're rich in family and friends, and
that was never a goal, actually. To be honest,
I'm sure it was not. Just the opposite, probably.
Yeah, wanted to do good work and do work that I would feel strongly about. You know, and hopefully people liked it. And I'm not whining because we've been blessed and.
Well, and you've also done things like movies, right?
You
did Sleeping Beauty. Is that the name of it? The horse movie?
Oh, no.
What is it?
Black
Beauty,
Black Beauty.
I helped you with that, in fact, doing that. I should know the name. My son has that painting that was in
really?
there.
Oh,
I
cool.
gave that to him for his collection. But, I mean, the whole movie was your horses behind it.
That was kind of fun. We've we're in some collections of quite a few movie people and music people, so it's been around, and so we've been fortunate that way. And an artist always is whining, about I could have done better, I could have sold more, and you think that your last painting sale will be your last one ever, that's kind of
it's a hard road because you're dependent for the most part on somebody else making the sale. You've lost control of that, and that's hard. I would hate it, actually.
It's you have to go forward with some faith. I'll have to say that.
No. Well, and I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. But the first time that when we were talking about me representing you, which again was at least 25 years ago, you were a big deal. You're showing at Suzanne Brown. You're a very established artist even back then, and it was a big deal for me to get you. And I just started my gallery not that long ago, and he called me up and he said, "Well, you going to be around in like 5 years?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well," he goes, "I just want to make sure you're serious about this before I commit." And I loved that, and I must have portrayed that I was serious. I definitely was. I had burned the ships. There was no doubt I was serious.
Yeah, well, that came up because I'd been with galleries, I mean, they
Right.
come and go, and people think it's going to be fun to have a gallery, and then
Right.
2 years later, they're like, this isn't that much fun,
Right. Yeah, and he's a doctor, and is he just going to go, well, couldn't cut it, and really he's going back to being a physician.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly glad we made that decision to join up. It's been great.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing, though, as an artist, you ask those questions of a dealer. I do. I mean, there's no reason you can't put my feet to the fire and find out if it's true. But I was all in. And I have to thank you for being that guy, that really important artist that came on right off the bat for me. I think it really made a difference in my career. So hopefully we're still doing it 25 years later.
I've been honored to do it. All these years has been great.
Yeah.
You and Kathleen have been terrific. I've got good stories about other galleries that are not so positive, and
yeah, I can remember one of them.
So to have somebody that's totally honest and committed to the business and to my career, so that's been great.
It's true. I mean, I have a lot of paintings of yours in my house, and I wouldn't sell them for anything. I love them.
Hey, cool.
Yeah,
that's always helpful, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have one that's where I come in and out of the garage every day. When I go to my get in my truck, and I see it every day. I always look at it, and every day I see that piece, which is, those are the kind of pieces that if they can hold that kind of attention, that means you're doing something pretty right. So,
somebody told me I should be honored that not much of my stuff gets on the resale.
That's true.
Market,
Yeah.
I always thought, well, they can't sell those things, but apparently it's because people.
Yeah, they want to keep them.
They like them and want to keep them. So.
Or their kids want them too.
Yeah.
And they get passed on. So it is true that your stuff gets passed on, and I think Tucson Museum of Art might have. What do they have? 3 or 4 of your paintings in their permanent collection? I mean, that's amazing. They're smart to have them. So, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an honor to be in the hometown museum for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a great museum. So
it is. It's a wonderful museum.
Thanks to you, you guys have been great supporters.
We believe in it. We think it's an important museum, and we want to grow with it. And they've done I think they're doing some wonderful things, especially with their Western and Native indigenous stuff. I think that's Tucson. I mean, it's great to have modern art. I love modern art, but I also think we need to embrace our cultural, roots, which are definitely the West and Native. So I think they're doing a pretty good job with that.
No, I think it's a great museum, and of course the Phoenix Museum doesn't have quite that same reverence for
not for the West.
The West, yeah.
Yeah. Though they have a killer collection.
They got a killer collection, yeah.
Killer collection. I mean, it's just just eye-popping. But it's a bigger metropolitan city, and,
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, so they need to, they want to be a broad museum for the Phoenix metropolitan area. I get it. They have some other museums like the Scottsdale Museum of the West, Western Spirit, that is dedicated to the West, so they're filled in that lane, and the Heard Museum does Native American. So they've got specialties, but for our museum, we have both, which I like.
There's some great museums around the country, and surprisingly, how many of them have major Western, quote, Western collections, some traditional, but a lot of contemporary Western.
Yeah. It's one of the best I've seen, just Western museums. Just recently was the Cody Museum, Art Museum, Buffalo Bill Museum. My gosh, that thing's insane.
that the contemporary collection right next to the old traditional is pretty
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I mean, it's an amazing shout out to them. I hadn't seen it. I did it this summer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is mind bending.
They may have my biggest painting ever up there in that museum.
Yeah, I think I must have took a photo of it. They also have a killer T.C. Cannon painting up there. I mean, it's just a well curated, and all the Remingtons and things. So, yeah, we have some great Western museums in America, mainly in the West, but not completely. You know.
Yeah, back in New York, the Rockwell, I shouldn't try to name them, but there's
Yeah.
a lot on the
Yeah, and the Idle George,
Yeah.
and the Booth Museum, and the the Raymond James Museum in Florida. Yeah, they've got some. You know, I mean, when you think about America, you know, and you think about art, you know, there is only really a couple things that are truly American art. That's Native and Western, and then you could say abstract expressionists started. But you know, if you're going to think about American art, it is Western and Native arts. Those are the true, you know, arts of America, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it blew me away when I first saw the Idle George Museum. You know that
Mm-hmm.
you know that here's this Western quote Indian collection right in the middle of Indianapolis. You know
Right.
that was,
Fantastic.
and the same with the Booth Museum. You know, it's
Great.
That's how cool.
I know, right?
How
Yeah.
cool.
And those two specifically were two men who had vision and
Right.
you know, wanted to see it happen. So, and I said sometimes that's what it takes. Somebody who just goes, yeah, we need a museum. And people
Right.
love that they can have that in their town. Because like for Indianapolis, the art museum's fantastic. That's an amazing art museum. But they also have the Idle George, which is just as wonderful, but it's really just Western and Native. So it's,
Yeah, it's yeah, what a great phenomena.
yeah. And you at that Idle George Museum, you were a one person show at one time,
Yeah.
right?
Every year they pick an artist to do the artist of distinction and
Right.
give them a one man
Yeah.
show. And I was honored to be able to
Yeah.
have that.
Well, and there's a book out on you
Yeah.
that New Mexico Press did. And then a few years back you did, was it a 3 museum exhibit?
Oh yeah, that's
One man exhibit?
yeah, that was they didn't call it a retrospective. They had another name for it,
Yeah.
but it traveled to the 3
3 museums.
Yeah, that was
I
that
know.
was pretty
I
cool.
loaned a few pieces and
Yeah.
didn't see them for a few years.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anything you want to add to your life or what's going on? What he's
Add to my life.
Yes.
I want to add to my life.
Yeah, add to it. But you know, as far as how do you see kind of Western art in the next 10 years? Do you see things changing or same or?
It's exciting to see all those young guys
Yep.
coming along. You know, Logan and Majori and all of them. You know, taking off on their own directions. You know, and it's been kind of fun to have them in conversation with them over the last couple of years, to have them say thanks for
Paving the way.
kind of doing what you did to help
Yeah.
lead the way. You know, I mean, I think they far eclipsed what I've been able to do with it. You know, and,
It's different. You're the backbone. You and I think Ed Mell as well, I think,
and
are two of the main ones.
so that's been kind of fun to see that. Although I'm not sure I like being the old, nearly dead veteran. You know, I liked it when I was the up and coming
Right.
guy. You know, but no, we've been blessed and fortunate, and it's and I hope to be able to keep making good art. You know. And,
Yep.
that's been my goal. You know, is to do good work. You know, and quality work.
Yeah.
And as you say, hopefully people will remember that.
Yeah, they will.
And but I like that Woody Allen quote, though. I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve immortality through not dying. You know, so but it's been good, and thanks to you for your support.
Yeah, no, I love it.
And doing this show has been a great idea you had, I think. And
Yeah, it's a killer show. We just, for those people who will be listening to this next week, yeah, we just hung the show. So, You know, it'll be up through all of October and a good portion of the first couple of weeks, I think, in November.
Yeah.
So, yeah, come out and see it. It's great.
Yeah, what a great idea to do that big signature piece of the cattle, the steers together.
That piece.
That was
Hurts not to take that one home.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Well, thank you again for just coming in on to do this today, and hopefully we got a better audio than the first one we did.
Hopefully I talked faster than
No, you didn't.
Oh, I didn't.
Just about the same.
Oh, okay.
That's okay though.
They,
That's Howard Post.
yeah, as we say, it takes me a moment to think about it, and I don't want to say anything that's too rash. And yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Howard Post, Art Dealer Diaries. Come see his show. Thank you so much, Howard.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Go out. I'll let you go home and go paint.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks.